Good afternoon. How's everyone today? This is Scott with Schmidt Family Farm. The drive on the way home. Recap my day. We finished wiring the lean-to. Then, so we're done with that. Moved. Oh, we had the CEO of our company had me install a generator at his house a couple weeks ago, and they have the propane tank set. So he wanted me to swing by today, show him how the generator operates, start it up, make sure everything's running right. I said, okay, we'll be there at 1 o'clock. So I got there at 1 o'clock and went over to the generator, and you kill the main breaker. That tells the generator we don't have power. Generator's supposed to start, and once the generator starts, then the transfer switch says we got to transfer power from utility to generated power. That's kind of how the way things are supposed to work. So I killed the main breaker, looked at the generator. It takes 5 seconds, 6 seconds to start, and what seemed like about 10 seconds went by, and I was still looking at the generator, and he was looking at the generator, and I looked at him and he looked at me, and then I started to get worried. I was like, holy smokes, you know. But then it tried to start. A lot of times when you're starting up a generator for the first time, there's air in the line if they haven't bled the line, so it may not start the first time it tries, and it didn't. So it started to crank a second time, and then I thought, well, I better check and see if the propane tank valve is open, which it wasn't. So it didn't start the second time, started to crank the third time, and it fired up. Started, it's running good. So I told him, okay, you ought to be able to go into your house and have power. You're running off generated power. So he walked over and went in his house, and then he came back out of his house with the thumbs down. No power. I'm like, this is my boss that I put a generator in for. What, you know, why him? So I opened the transfer switch up, and on the transfer switch there's a coil that sets in there, and it has 2 wires that goes to it, and one of those wires was pulled off. And he saw it too. He said, oh, we got a wire loose. Yeah. So put the wire on, transferred, everything's good. So easy fix, you know. It just got knocked off probably while we were you got to put some 2-aught wire in there. It's kind of hard to maneuver in there. It got knocked off. So after that, went to the shop, changed the light out in the shop. Oh, and we got the fuses in for the water well, and that gives me a good opportunity I wanted to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Scott Fuse, the fuse that really blows. So Scott Fuse, I've used them for years. It's a really good company. They've been a long-time sponsor of the channel. They've helped us grow, and good company to work for. They make a wide range of fuses, 600 volt, 250 volt fuses, in about any amperage that you're going to want. So next time you need a fuse, Scott Fuse. The owner's a good guy. Worked with him for a long time. Known him a long time. And it's an Oklahoma company. So Scott Fuse, the fuse that really blows. And we're going to go to the water well and put a couple in, see if we can't start pumping some water. The pond needs to, it goes down about 6 inches a day probably when we're not pumping. So we'll get it going, hopefully. I mean, that fuse blew for a reason, but we'll see. We'll get water pumping. See you there. All right, we've made it back to the pond. I'm gonna go over here and put this fuse in. see if we can't get the pump going. Let me explain to you a little bit. I didn't the other day on how this pump panel works. So three-phase power comes in here, and then there's a disconnect. This is a disconnecting means, fuses, overcurrent protection, and then that feeds from the disconnect down into this is a magnetic starter. And basically it's just like a switch, automatic or a control switch that is controlled with these two switches here. And this is called an HOA, hand off auto. And if you have it on hand, it runs 24/7. If you have it on auto, then it runs through this time switch, which what I have here, it's a 24-hour time switch, and it's on 12, off 12. So we'll whip a fuse in here if we can. A little bit difficult sometimes. There we go. Scott fuse. So I'm gonna close this. I got a spare fuse down there. I'm gonna close this to start it. I'm gonna set this clock. Well, we're pretty close there actually, about right there. And we'll close this. Then we turn the disconnect on. I'll turn this to off, and then turn the disconnect on, and we will hit to hand. And on a hand, you got to push the start. So that didn't start. We might have more problems than just a fuse. I was thinking that that fuse might have blown because of a low voltage event we had the other day, but that may not be the case because that didn't sound right to me when that wanted to start. So, and I left my tool bag at work, but this is the well right here, submersible well. It's a 1-horse pump, but we may have to check a little further. So no water tonight, because that sounded, yeah, that's not right. So, all right, I'll have to bring my tool bag back home tomorrow. But I thought we'd drive down and see how far the pond has gone down today, because I bet it's gone down quite a little ways. That's discouraging because I don't want to have to pull that pump, but it's about 60 foot deep, probably. 1-horse pump though. It's pretty heavy. We'll see though. I'll have to, I meant to bring my tool back home and then just forgot it. Too big a hurry leaving work, I guess. But yeah, I mean, you can see that it's down. I mean, earlier I said it probably dropped 6 inches. It doesn't drop 6 inches a day. I got to thinking about that, you know. A cup, you know, it's not down. I mean, it's been off for a week probably, and it's gone down that much, which that's probably 7 or 8 inches, but you know, it's not. We certainly need to get the water pumping in it. But with that not kicking on, we'll have to see. I don't want to have to pull that, but hopefully we don't have to, but it looks like we're going to have to at this point. Anyway, all right, so the water well saga continues. I was really hoping it wouldn't go that way. So, all right, thanks for watching.